I don't know how many of you have had a history of some hamstring tears in your life. It's pretty common that sometime in your life you might get a little jolt at one of the attachments at your sit bones. And I think it's really important to have a really good balance, not just with your hamstrings, but with every part of you, to have a balance of both effort and flexibility, strength and flexibility. And a lot of times, when our hamstrings can become problematic when we overstretch them. A lot of times people can have some problems with the attachments of their sit bones when they do a little too much hamstring stretching. And of course, in yoga, this can happen very easily. There's so much in the yoga postures that lend themselves to opening up the back line of the body. There's a fascial line that on cadavers, it can be dissected out, this fascial plane from the top of the eyebrows, over the skull, down the back line of the body, down the spine, down the glutes, back of the hamstrings, the calves, all the way to the bottom of their feet. So, we call it the back line, or the kinesthetic chain of the back line. And a lot of times when there's, in yoga postures, we do a lot to stretch the back line of the body. So we want to be really careful that we're not overdoing it. It's very easy to overdo. So a few things to think about if you have challenges with overdoing hamstring stretching is the first, remember that any muscle that is both flexing and stretching at the same time, this is a very stabilizing force for the way tendons attach onto bones. When we stretch without engagement, either of the reciprocal muscle group or in the muscle itself, we tend to lean on our tendons and to yank on our tendons where they attach to the bone. So we really want to have the feeling in the belly of your muscle when you're working both in strength and in flexibility with the hamstrings. One of the reasons why we want to maintain open, free hamstrings in the body is because it does have that kinesthetic chain connection to the whole back line of the body. So if your spine tends to be tight, your back, this can impact, tight hamstrings can make your back tight. So a few things, if you just look at me for a sec. If your hamstrings are tight, which kind of can make your pelvis kind of roll back like this, and we try to stretch the back line of the body, we can get a lot of tension in our back. Whereas if we bend our knees and lift our sit bones and have that pelvic tilt, this frees up the spine a lot, so the whole back line of the body can open instead of just getting caught right at the hamstrings. So let's try to focus on not having it be just about one muscle group. And then the last thing I want to say that's very protective for the hamstrings is when you're in that flex stretch, when you're trying to flex and stretch simultaneously, which we'll do a fair amount of today, this is very protective. And the main way you can do this when you're standing is to have your heel, and when you're lying down too. So if you are in a pose like Parsvottanasana where your legs are forward, if you press the front heel down and pull it back, it will engage the hamstring. So we're going to work with some of how to protect the attachments of the hamstrings as we stretch them today in class. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes and think about all the amazing things your hamstrings do for you. Their main job is to extend the leg. We use them all the time when we're walking, when we're hiking, when we're biking, when we're sitting, when we're getting up out of a chair, when we are getting down onto the floor. There's so many ways in which we require healthy hamstrings through our day. So as you close your eyes, see if you can first just have deep gratitude for these three muscles. There's three different hamstring muscles that do so much. They are unsung heroes of the legs. Our quads tend to get all the glory sometimes, and the hamstrings are the back body heroes. So let's just have a moment to appreciate what they do for us. And hopefully you're sitting in a comfortable posture where your hamstrings are soft, where you're not engaged. There's not a lot of work necessary when your knees are bent like this. So have a moment to feel your legs drop, to feel the weight of your thigh bones. Let your knees descend. Feel the sense of gravity being like a weighted blanket on your legs, the support of the earth below you. And then come into the pelvis and see Where are you today in your pelvis? Do you tend to tip forward in the pelvis or roll back, or do you lean left or right or turn left or right? To see where your tendencies lie. Do you always sit with your legs? If you're sitting cross-legged, do you always sit with the cross like this? And if so, change the cross of your legs. Let's switch. Let's bring the other leg forward and notice, little road less traveled in the body. And use this heightened newness. It's not a familiar pattern, not habituated as much. See if that gives you a sense of stability through your pelvis, lengthen your spine. And let's take a moment to feel the full body, the full breath. Whatever's been going on for you in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, in your body. Let's allow ourselves to drop into this time, this moment. Let your practice nourish you, support you. Feel the crown grow, feel the sit bones drop. Are your shoulders back? Do you feel aligned, or are you hunched or pushed forward? Is your breath free? Where's discomfort? And how can you support yourself? All right, let's place the palms together at your heart and bow in. Offer an intention for your practice. What do you need today? How can being present in your body, your mind, your breath support whatever it is that you're needing? Okay, let's release the hands and come onto our back. All right, as you lie down, you just see what it feels like to have a sense of length. So even before you stretch and kind of find that invigoration, see if you could just melt into the floor. Let your body settle into the horizontal plane. Things shift around, the way gravity impacts us shifts around. You might feel it in your spine or any joint. And then when you're ready, let's take your arms overhead if they like to do that and stretch. Lengthen one side, maybe your right, then your left. Stretch through your arms. You can feel your breath. You can hold your breath. You can steady your breath. Whatever feels really good in the body as you awaken the muscles. And then let's go ahead and bring the knees into the chest and rock around a little bit. Okay, so just feeling that sense of swaying from side to side. Let your back relax. And then circle the knees a few times in one direction. What do you like about this? How does it feel across your sacrum? And then circle your knees in another direction. All right, and then right knee into the chest. Left leg comes along on the floor and circle your ankles. Feel your feet wake up. We need your feet for just about everything we do. So just notice this is the bottom of that fascial line, the back line of the body. So if your feet get real tight, if you tend to limp a little bit when you wake up in the morning, if you have some plantar fasciitis, some just stiffness in your feet and ankles, you can do a lot for the rest of your back line by opening up your feet. Bring your left knee into the chest, stretch your right leg on the floor, and repeat. Get some openness through the bones of the feet as much as you can. Roll those ankles around. Feel the extension through your spine. How's your breath? Okay, and then 2 knees into the chest. Let's pull your knees apart and back in, just warming up the hip joints. All right, stretch your body out to a starfish. Lengthen Navel to your edges, squeeze everything you can. Just give all your muscles a squeeze. Make sure your hamstrings are included in that. And then bring your knees into your chest, chin up. All your air out and squeeze. All right, and then a little easier, maybe no squeezing, maybe you like squeezing. Stretch out. Exhale, stretch in. One more time. Feel the fullness. Stretch from your center to your edges. Exhale, draw in toward the center. All right, put your head on the floor, put your feet on the floor. Feet maybe a little wider than your hips, and just start spinning your knees left and right. Windshield wipering your knees, just opening up the side bodies, the outer hips a little bit. Feel free to turn your head opposite of your knees, maybe stretch an arm out opposite of your knees. All right, and then let's pause here. Put your feet hip width apart and just feel the neutral spine. So see if you can notice from the base, not the base of your skull, but where your head is touching the ground. Travel from there down your spine all the way to the tailbone. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax. We're going to grab our strap. If you don't have a strap, you can always interlace your hands behind your hamstrings. Reach your right foot into the strap, and we're going to lift that right leg up. So your left foot, your foot can be on the floor, your knee can be bent, or your leg can be straight on the ground with your knee straight. So one of the ways we protect our hamstrings is not hyperextending our knees. So this just tugs on tendons and ligaments. So notice if you tend to push your knees back, see if you can soften the knee a little bit. And instead, reach up through your foot and down through your hips. So the trajectory of your internal movement is not pushing your knee away from you. It's really an upward, downward movement. Foot up and hip down. And if there's something that's going to press away from the shoulders, let it be right at the root of your hip joint instead of at your knee. So take the femur bone back instead of the knee joint back. Flex the toes, feel the calf, the bottom of the foot, and see if you can spread out the hamstrings. You have 3 hamstring muscles. So what can you do to try to identify those? There's no worries if you can't. They are right next to each other. Okay, let's wrap the strap into the right hand, and we're going to open up the right leg to the right. So you might feel the semimembranosus, that's the innermost hamstring, a little bit more when you open up this way. And just notice, do you have more or less sensation at the sit bones where your hamstrings all converge to attach onto a bone? So, muscles move bone, and they do a lot more than that. They're in a whole fascial linked up chain. So we get combo movements. We don't just isolate our hamstrings very often. We can, but they're usually involved in a much more full body movement. So when we isolate things like this, it gives us a chance to pay attention to where these muscles attach to bone. Can you feel it behind your knee? Can you feel it at your sit bones? Okay, and then let's lift that leg straight back up again. Take the strap into the left hand. Cross the right leg a little bit over. It doesn't have to be a big giant thing. You don't have to think about bringing your foot near the floor. Move your hip away from the shoulder and stretch your crown. Stretch through the big toe and the inner heel. Breathe into the sensations that you feel. Can you maybe now feel the outer hamstring stretch just a little bit? Start to identify, the back body's hard. We can't feel it as easily. We don't see it as easily. So some of the ways we sense our bodies gets a little lost to us because we can't touch and see. So you need to rely on the inner sensing as much as you can. Lift that leg straight back up into the air. 2 feet into the strap for a moment. Extend the spine. Try not to push your knees back to straighten your legs. Take the femur bones and the hip joints back to straighten your legs. Soft little micro bend in the knees. Let's take the right foot out of the strap. Put your right foot on the floor with your knee bent or your right leg straight on the ground. You decide. Stretch up through your left foot into the strap and root down through the hip. Are your shoulders relaxed? Is your face relaxed? Do you have a sense that you can bring your toes toward your face and still spread out the bones of your foot? Try not to push your knee back. It's such a habit for a lot of us to just hyperextend and kind of lock the knee and let the pose take care of itself like that. But if you soften the knee, you actually get a little bit more work through the pelvis and the hamstring. Move the femur bone away from the shoulder, right at the root, in the hip joint. Rise up through the foot, root down through your hip. Okay, we're going to take the strap into the left hand, open the leg out to the left. So the right foot is either straight on the floor, or your right leg is on the floor, or your right foot is on the floor. You decide what stabilizes you best. Try not to let the whole pelvis tip to the left. So you want to keep grounded through the right side of our pelvis as much as you can without, feeling like you're a wishbone. You want to have some integrity across your sacrum. Stretch through. Notice if a little bend in that left knee, or maybe even a lot of a bend in that knee, changes the sensation at the inner knee or the sit bone. Try not to tug on tendon attachments. Tendons are strong. They're the muscle fibers coalesce into this fibrous, strong tendon that attaches onto a bone, but we don't want to overtax them. They get a lot of burden as it is. Okay, let's lift that left leg straight up in the air. Let's transfer the strap to the right hand, cross the left leg over. Left hip palm can press the top of the left thigh away if you want. Create a little space in that femur bone. Extending the spine, stretch through the foot. Lift that leg straight up in the air and go ahead and relax that. Bring both knees into the chest. Let the hips soften. Let the hamstrings soften. Rock a little bit. Be at ease. All right, we're going to roll over onto our side and come up onto our hands and our knees. So as we come to some cat-cows, just notice what your body is feeling like today. So you can start moving, arching the back, rounding the spine, taking your time, noticing that back line through the body. Let your head drop. Make sure your neck and your tail are all a part of this movement. Breathe. Let your breath be a part of the movement. How's your spine feeling today? Notice when you lift your sit bones, what happens to your hamstrings, and when you drop your pelvis into a curl, what happens to your hamstrings? And then move things around. So just swivel through your shoulders, move through your neck, move through your hips, any kind of movement that feels really nice in your body. All right, so if you're not comfortable on your hands, you can always take fists or hands on blocks. We're going to take our left leg straight back behind us and start to integrate your glutes and your hamstrings into one chain. Okay, so notice how they work together. Pulse your leg, a straight leg, a few times in the air. Engage through your core so your front body is supporting your back body. Shoulders are away from the ears. Just start to wake up the glutes and the hamstrings and that leg in the air. Deep breath. And as we exhale, knee to chest. And just coming out and in. And you can go faster than your breath, with the breath, however you want to move. See if you can sense. Of course, your glutes are working hard. Share the journey with your hamstrings. Engage through your core so you're stable in your torso. All right, and then release and let that knee come down. Child's pose. Take your arms out or down, whatever feels good. Walk the hands over to the right side of the mat and open up the rib cage. Feel the side body stretch. Drop weight down into the hips. Relax your neck. Take some deep breaths. And then come back to center and walk over to the other side. Weight down into the hips. Relax your neck. Soften your gaze. Breathe deeply. And then come back to center. Come up onto all fours. Let's take our right leg straight out behind us. So same thing. Stabilize your hips. Try to find balance across your pelvis. Keep your core engaged. Feel the symmetry, not symmetry, but the synergy with your hamstrings and your glutes. Pulse them a few times. Feel stable. Let your hands be nice and even on the floor instead of just leaning in the wrists. Few pulses here. Wake things up. Let those muscle fibers warm. And then we're going to start moving the knee into the chest and then press it out. You can even imagine that you're pushing against something. So if any of you are cyclists, you know, that push down of the pedal, sometimes that extension and then the pull back up, there's a lot going on with our hamstrings when we use our leg in this way. Okay, so go ahead and relax. Come on to all fours. Inhale, reach the right arm up in the air. Exhale, slide that right shoulder down, finding a twist here. Try to keep your pelvis over your knees. Relax your neck. Take a deep breath into the back of the body. Inhale, rise up. Bring that arm to the sky. Place the hand down and change sides. Arm up. Exhale, arm through. Gaze toward the floor. Press your hand into the earth. Shoulders away from the ears. Breathe fully. Breathe deeply. Inhale, reaching that arm all the way to the sky. Place the hand down onto the ground. Back onto all fours again. Left leg up again. This time, instead of reaching our leg straight back behind us, we're going to bend our knee, make a footprint on the ceiling. Internally rotate the thigh a little bit so you don't turn your knee out, and just pulse a few times. Stay stable in your shoulder blades and in your core. Press the foot up toward the sky. Deepening your breath. Okay, now hold it up there past, your central line of your hip. Lift your knee a little higher than your pelvis. And then relax and bring your knee into your chest and place that foot down onto the ground. Stretch your calf all the way back, so curl your toes under, lengthen through that leg, and then place the knee onto the ground. Second side. So your leg starts out in line with your hip, bend your knee, and then we're going to pulse a few times. So this can cause a hamstring cramp, and so if anybody's getting a hamstring cramp, either just keep going or stop and stretch it. Usually they just take a little time to go away. So pulsing a few times, make a footprint on the ceiling, internally rotate that leg so you're not splitting the knee out. Find your core, breathe deeply. Okay, and then go ahead and relax, knee to your chest, and then stretch that foot out. Curl the toes under on the floor and just stretch your calf, your hamstring. Curl the toes under and find a full body dog pose. So maybe you can start by pedaling or bouncing or swaying. Maybe one knee drops in, your other hip lifts. Maybe you're just still. So just find what works for your body. Stay grounded. Softly bend your knees a little bit. Try not to push your knees back. Instead of pushing your knees back, stretch your heels back. Spread open the bones of your feet. Lift the arches up, up, up to the inner and outer groins. Widen the sit bones. Soften the knees. Lift and widen the sit bones. Extend the spine. Finding the breath. Let's walk our feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Fold in half. Let the knees bend. Try to tip the pelvis. Let the pubic bone pass through the inner thighs. The sit bones lift and widen. The tailbone lifts. The waterfall of your spine cascades from the tailbone down to your skull. Everybody grab your hands behind your head and just ever so slightly pull your chin toward your chest and feel that full back line of the body. Okay, inhale for a halfway lift. You can hold wherever you want to hold. Shins, thighs, floors, blocks. Exhale and melt. Push off your feet, rise up, reaching the arms to the sky. Take a deep breath, cactus, open the arms, open the chest. Exhale and round in. Grab a block, okay, and stick a block between your thighs. So once you get settled, we're gonna do some chair poses today. So just feel yourself drop in. You know, the block can really help you stabilize your knees so that you can feel the work without having this wobble factor going on with this, you know, if your knees are a little uncomfortable. So it doesn't take any of the work away to have a block between your thighs, it just helps you stabilize. So come into chair pose. You can put your hands wherever you want them to be. You can have your arms up. You can have your hands down. So remember with the chair, we're trying not to round the spine and tuck the tail. That's what I'm talking about, where this can really tighten the hamstrings. See what it feels like to tip the pelvis and still be working the hamstrings as you tip the pelvis. So press the heels into the floor as if you're trying to push yourself up to straight to stand, but we're not going anywhere. And feel the hamstrings engage. Hug the block gently. Feel the feet extend through the spine. Arms go wherever you want them to go. And then rise up. Take a deep breath. Exhale, take the block out of there. Fold forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Step your left foot forward and your right foot back. Opposite of what we sometimes do. And just find that sense of a lunge. Open the chest. And let's start moving. Squaring the hips. Notice here, especially if you're quite flexible, if you just lean back the knee and kind of lock the knee. Try to unlock the knee as much as you can. The knee never comes into full straightness. See if you can play with that. What does it feel like to try to straighten your leg without straightening your knee all the way? How do you straighten it? Lift your femur bone back up into the hip. Root your big toe mound into the floor. Okay, let's come into two straight legs, straight-ish legs. Put your blocks at any height you need them to be. Find the chest broadening and lengthening. Inner spiral of the thighs. So inner thighs roll back. See if you can feel as though the pubic bone can pass through the thighs. Sit bones are widening and the spine is growing. Start to feel the hamstring engage by pressing the heel down into the ground and maybe even dragging it back toward the wall behind you. And then release that. Bend your knee again. You can always put your back knee on the floor. Rise up, crescent lunge. Bring your arms wherever you want them to be. Hopefully your hamstring's wide awake now. And you can even put your hand there and feel it. Feel your muscle. It's very strong and engaged. As you reach your arms wherever you want them to be, push that front foot into the floor as if you're trying to straighten the leg. Extend upward. Find your breath. And then exhale and release the hands to the floor. Step back to a plank. Feel the difference between your two sides. Start to melt back into symmetry. Hold steady. The shoulders are away from the ears. The core is deeply engaged. All right, and then let's put our knees down and come all the way to the floor. Inhale, rise up to a cobra. Exhale. And melt back down. Let's repeat that. Just start to open the spine. Exhale and relax. This time, take your hands off the floor. Move the shoulders away from the ears. Feel the back body already engaging. Support through your core and lift your torso a little bit off the ground using that back line of the body. Feel from the base of your skull all the way to your feet. Support with the front. Keep breathing. Exhale and melt back down. Come up onto all fours. Swirl things around. So move your pelvis, move your shoulders. Let things free up from back bending. And as you're ready, dog pose. Lengthen through the spine. Relax your head and melt. Bend your knees a lot. See what it feels like to really softly move the knees forward. Lift the sit bones. And then start to bring the legs back a little bit without hyperextending. Spread into the feet. Lift the arches. Breathe deeply. Lift the left leg, right leg up in the air. Wait, left leg. I can't remember. Do the opposite side of what you just did. I think we are bringing our right foot forward. Okay, so come into a lunge. Stretch your heart forward. Feel the hip flexors stretch and open. And then let's start moving our body here. Square hips, deep breaths. Moving into straighter legs, moving into a lunge, back and forth. And then come into two straightish legs. And you can have your blocks high. You can even stack one block on top of another block so that you have, or even a chair or a table, so that you have the ability to straighten your leg a little bit more. Just try not to push your knee. See if you can root through the big toe mound and reach the hip back. Extend the spine, press your heel down to flex your hamstring while you're stretching it. And this should feel good. It should feel stable to have your hamstring both flexing and stretching at the same time. All right, go ahead and bend the knee. Go ahead and rise up, reaching the arms to the sky, or out, or down, or anywhere you want them to be. Press the heel into the floor as if you're trying to pop your torso upright or upward. And this will engage that hamstring and your glutes on that front leg. Stretch through the back leg, engage the hamstrings and glutes on the back leg too. Feel the extension, like when we were trying to make those footprints on the ceiling. Okay. Exhale and bring your hands down. Walk your back foot forward. Fold in half, knees bend. Inhale, straight knees, not hyperextended, hands on blocks. Extend the spine. Exhale and melt back down. Rise all the way up. Arms coming to the sky. And then release the arms down. Grab your block again. Second time moving through a chair pose. Decide where you want your arms to be. They can be anywhere you want them to be. Put your weight into your heels. Your knees are bent. Have a neutral pelvis. So we're not tucking the tailbone under. This will make you engage your hamstrings a lot, but in sacrifice to the spine. So remember that full line of the back body. Press your heels down. Find your breath. And now we're going to micro slow stand up. Micro slow. Feel the pushing of the floor away as you slowly stand up straight and tall. Okay, let's get that block out of there for a moment. Inhale, reaching the arms. Exhale and fold forward. Halfway lift. Exhale and release, dog pose. Feel the full back line, bend your knees. Deep breath in, deep breath away. Lift your right leg up in the air. Okay. Pulse that leg a few times. Feel the engagement of your hamstring. Bring that foot forward. Come to a lunge again. Walk your back foot in some so that your hips are square, your feet are not in as deep of a lunge. Place your hands down onto the blocks. Extend the spine. You can always take your right foot out to the right more if need be. Press your heel down and drag it back. Feel the neutral pelvis. Try not to tuck the tailbone down. See if you can pass the pubic bone through the inner thighs. Rise up. Okay. Now, put your arms where you want them. This pose is not so easy, Parsvottanasana. So traditionally, the hands are like this with your palms together behind your back. My shoulders don't do that, so I just grab onto my wrists or my forearms, wherever I can reach. Open up the chest, spread across the collarbones. Exhale and lean forward. This is a lot of flex stretch going on in hamstrings. Press both feet into the floor. Spread the bones. See if you can pull that front foot back just a little bit to help you engage. Extending the spine, the core is full. Finding your breath. So you can go as far down as you want to go in this posture, making sure you're not hyperextending the front knee. Okay, come on up. Reaching the arms all the way to the sky again. Walk the back foot forward, step the front foot back. Repeat with your arms in the other position, so put them in the road less traveled. Open up across your collarbones. Find the breath. A little hack, you can always take the front foot out to the side a little bit more if your balance is a little off. Try taking a wider stance with your feet. Lift from the pubic bone all the way up through the front line of the body. Breathe, and then extend forward. Try not to collapse the shoulders. Keep the heads and the arm bones moving away. Root both feet into the floor. Pull that front heel back to engage your hamstrings. Extend the spine. Softly allow your knees to be released in the pose instead of gripped. Hyperextended. All right, let's go ahead and come back up. Reaching the arms to the sky. Give them a good circle after that shoulder bind. Place the hands down onto the ground. Lift that leg in the air, three-legged dog. Finding the breath. Exhale and place your foot down onto the ground. Bend your knees. Bend your knees a lot. Inhale, come forward into a plank. Hold everything steady. Finding the breath. All right, and then we're going to slowly lower ourselves down to the floor safely. Okay. You get to decide whether you want your arms out to the side, up over your head, or down. If you feel like you're going to keep your upper body steady, try the down, arms down. We're going to lift our legs up. You can have them hip width, closer, wider, find what feels comfortable. Lift your torso up too. And either, if your arms are, everything can be steady. You don't have to move your upper arms, or you can move your arms in opposition to your legs. So we're kicking from our glutes, from our hips to move our legs. Okay, we're not bending the knees strongly and we're keeping them straight without hyperextending. You can also keep your hands underneath your forehead and keep your torso down. So you decide how deep, feel your glutes and your hamstrings work together. How's your breath? Feel the back line of the body, shoulder blades down, engage your core. And then exhale and relax. Pick up your feet, bring them towards your pelvis, and windshield wiper your knees. Turn your head one way or the other. Breathing in, breathing away. Okay, let's come back up onto all fours. Swivel and sway, swish your spine around. And come back for a moment to child's pose. Let your hamstrings and your glutes relax, melt a bit. Feel the compression behind your knees. Okay, and then we're going to come back up. We're going to come up to stand. If you'd prefer to go through dog pose to get there, great. If you prefer just to stand up, great. Find your breath and eventually come forward. Okay, rise all the way up. So no block this time for chair pose. We're going to try to feel those attachment sites of our hamstrings safely. So we're going to bring our legs together, come into a chair, okay? Activate your hamstrings, press your heels into the floor. We're going to press deeply into the right heel and start to hover the left leg up. Your arms can go anywhere you want. Feel the hamstrings hold you. Stabilize with your core and your hip flexors as well. Find your breath and then slowly push yourself up to stand, lifting that knee in the air. And then place that foot down onto the ground. Remember, your arms can go anywhere. That helps you balance. Okay, come back into a chair pose. Feel your hamstrings. Put your weight into your left foot and push the floor away as if you're going somewhere and you're not going anywhere. Hover your right leg off the ground. Feel the work in the back of your left leg. Find your breath. And then we're going to slowly push ourselves up. One-legged pose. Lift your heart. Open the chest. 2 feet onto the ground. Inhale. Rise all the way up. Exhale, bend your knees and float forward. Halfway lift. Exhale and release. Step your left foot back. Come into Virabhadrasana 1. So plant the back heel on the ground. Rise up. Same thing as we were doing in Parsva Konasana. You can take the hack of bringing your whole leg out to the side a little bit more if need be. So notice, do you hang? Do you lean in your ligaments? Do you lean in your tendons? How's that back knee? Is it hyperextended? What can you do to soften the back knee, to push your leg into the floor, to lengthen through your spine? So the glutes and the hamstring of the back leg are working without hyperextending the knee. Extend through the spine, push your front heel into the floor. Reach the arms up in the air if it feels nice to do so. Okay, and then we're going to come forward. Bring your hands onto the blocks, half splits. Lengthen through the spine. Let's take our foot like we did earlier. This is a weird pose, right? We're going to stretch our legs straight back, and then we're going to bend our knee and lift a few times. Make sure the knee you're standing on is not hyperextended. Soften it a little bit. Make some footprints. And then exhale, tuck your knee behind your knee. Squat in. So super slow-mo, push off your foot to straighten your leg. Straighten both your legs back into half splits. Exhale and release your foot down. Softly bend your knees, melt your head. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Step back with your other foot. So Virabhadrasana 1. We now have our left foot forward, our right foot back. Rise up, extending through the spine. Bring your arms wherever you want them to be. So you can bring that front foot out to the side if you need it. Notice if this back leg, if the knee just automatically hyperextends. Soften the knee a little bit. When we have soft knees, we yield better. So as your knee softens, do you have the earth? Do you feel yourself being able to weight into the earth? Push off that earth to extend through the spine. Feel both hamstrings, both glutes working. Press that front heel into the earth. Try not to hyperextend the back leg. Okay, you know where we're going. So go ahead and bring the hands down onto the blocks. Come into half splits on this side. Stretch that leg back. Both sides are working hard. Extend the spine. See what it might feel like to bend your knee and make some footprints on the ceiling. Slight internal rotation. If you tend to turn the knee out, internally rotate just a little bit. Soften the knee you're standing on. Breathe deeply. And then exhale and curl in. Tuck your knee behind your knee. So it's a one-legged squat. Find your breath. And then we're super slow-mo going to push off that foot on the ground. Feel your hamstrings work all through the belly of your hamstrings. Stretch that leg back. Exhale, reach all the way back to Vira 1. I don't know if we did it twice on the other side, but let's do it twice here. Extending upward. And then exhale, step back to a plank. Enjoy the symmetry, the balance, the ease through some parts of your body, the strength through others. Let's tuck our knees down toward the floor and lower yourself down. Find your breath. Okay, we're going to take another full pose, but we're going to do locust pose. So interlace your hands behind your back, open the shoulders, stretch your tailbone toward the feet. Inhale, your legs can be together, apart, what feels best. Lift everything up. Feel the full back line engage from the base of your skull to your feet, to your toes. All right, and then exhale. Turn your head one side or the other. Pick up your feet. Relax your arms. Windshield wiper your knees. Left and right. Left and right. Finding the breath. All right, come up onto all fours. Check in with your spine. Do anything you need to nourish your spine. And then we're going to come back and rest our hips toward our heels for a snug up child's pose. We have one last strong thing to do with our hamstrings, and then we're going to switch gears and stretch. Have a block. Okay. Let's come on to our back. All right, so just pause here for a moment and check in. Actually, straighten your legs for just a moment. Check in with your hamstrings. Are they fatigued? Are they awake? Are you feeling any crankiness at the attachments behind your knees or at your sit bones? So hopefully you're feeling awareness in the belly of your muscles. Okay, so bring your feet in. Now you get to decide if you want to use the block or not. You can help yourself with the block between your thighs just like we did in the chair pose. You don't have to put a block, but have a block handy because we're going to do this passively in just a moment. Take a deep breath in, and we're going to very slowly push your pelvis upward and feel your hamstrings do the work of that. And then slowly lower yourself down. Your glutes are working with your hamstrings. They're synergistic. So see if you can find the balance in those two muscle groups as you lift the pelvis up and lower the pelvis down. Now this next time we're going to stay, so lift the pelvis. If you have a block, great. If you don't, great. Find your pose. Feel your feet. Press your heels to engage your hamstrings a little bit more. Notice what it feels like to pull your feet toward your pelvis. Notice what it feels like to push your feet away from your pelvis. See what the hamstrings do. When you pull your feet toward your pelvis, there's a little bit more engagement. Feel a sense of extension through the spine. Breathe into the belly. And then let's lower the pelvis down. Take your feet a little wider than your hips and just windshield wiper your knees left and right. We're going to grab onto the block and put it either on the low height or the middle height. If you really feel the urge to go higher than that, stack 2 blocks underneath your pelvis like this, instead of 1 block like this. You want to have a broad base underneath you. You don't have to be that high. The low and the middle height for most people is enough. Sometimes I put 2 blocks on their medium edge and rest on 2 blocks. So you just experiment. What feels best in your body for today? What kind of props do you like underneath you? The key here is to be supported and comfortable and melt. So I want you to feel that your hamstrings can hang off the bone. All this hugging to the bone that we've been doing, now feel your hamstrings just hang off the thigh bones. Deep belly breaths. The block is doing the work for you. All right, now put the block on the lowest height, okay, under your sacrum. Stretch either 1 leg or 2 legs. If you're stretching 1 leg, if your back can handle 1 leg, not 2 legs, just take a couple of breaths in 1 leg and then a couple of breaths in the other leg. If you can do 2 legs, your heels are on the ground, flex your heels, maybe even stretch your arms overhead. All right, now we're going to come out of there, take the block out. Windshield wiper your knees. Resist the urge to bring your knees to your chest just yet. Go side, side first. All right, let's go ahead and put our right foot on our left knee and come into reverse pigeon pose. Just stretch our hips a little bit, and we'll get into the hamstrings. Deep breaths in and away. All right, let's switch sides. Put your left foot on your right knee. Reach out behind your hamstrings or wherever you hold. Feel free to move a little bit. Feel free to be still. Deepening the breath. All right, let's release our legs down. Take your feet, happy baby pose. First, just stretch the back body a little bit. Feel your glutes stretch, your low back. Deep breaths here. And then we're going to roll over onto our side and come up to sit. The edge of a blanket is so helpful if you're working with forward folds and you need to work with that anterior tilt of the pelvis instead of, tucking the tailbone and locking the hamstrings. Having a blanket underneath the sit bones will help you tip into an anterior tilt. There's so many ways you can support yourself in this pose. You can stick a rolled blanket underneath your knee if you want. If you know you tend to hyperextend your knee or that you need to have your knee real bent to stretch. So everybody's hamstrings are a little different. So you can have support underneath that knee. You can have support underneath this knee. You can have no support at all. So there's all sorts of ways of finding this posture. Janu Shirshasana, we're going to grab a strap. Inhale, lift up the spine, come forward. Find your breath. Now it's easy to round the spine, so let's try to avoid this. Anterior tilt the pelvis, sit bones wide, extend the spine. You can tuck the chin toward the chest, but try not to let the rest of the spine be real round. Feel the hamstrings open on this side. There's a few things you can do to mess around. You can take a little twist in this pose. You can open to the side and stretch the inner hamstring more. There's lots of variations to take in Janu Shirshasana. All right, let's go ahead and come on out of there and switch your sides. If you want a blanket underneath your knees anywhere, you take it. However, you need to support yourself in this posture. Lift up through your spine and find your way. Try not to press your knee into the floor. Even if you don't have any support, and you can do this pose with your knee very bent if your hamstrings are super tight. And if your hamstrings are loose and you're trying to not overdo, micro bend in the knee. Popliteus muscle behind your kneecap, behind your knee, your back of your knee, engage just a little bit there. Extend the spine. Keep your breath. Maybe you can tuck your chin. Feel free to add the variations in any way you want. You can come into a side opening. You can come into a twist. Okay, this next pose is a doozy when it comes to the attachments of your hamstrings. So be very mindful if you have a history of overstretching or a hamstring attachment tear. You want to be very mindful when you're in this pose. You can stay up on the edge of that blanket. You can be off the blanket, however you want to be. Same thing as before. You can take blocks or rolled blankets underneath your knees. Your knees can be bent like this, where you're very bent, supported underneath. You can even take a block underneath. I lost my other block. You can take a block underneath each knee if need be. There's so many ways to make this pose available to you. Depending on your hamstrings. Hands behind you is a really good option. And then If you're going to go forward, super duper mindful that you are not tugging at the sit bones. Press your heels and drag them back. Find a soft knee. Only go as far as your body says to go. This is a very precarious position. If you do have a hamstring tear that you're working with, you can, I don't have anything here with me, but if you take a rod, like a broom handle or something, or a cane or a PVC pipe, and stick it right below, like an inch or two below the attachment of your sit bone, you kind of create a new attachment. So this is a great way of protecting the attachment, giving it a little break. If you lay your leg down on a dowel of some kind. All right, so let's come out of there. Bring your knees into your chest and curl into a little snuggle ball. Lie down on your back. Do a simple twist. Pick up your hips, move them right, knees up, drop them left. Enjoy twisting your body open. Inhale, bring your knees back up. Scooch them over to the other side, knees up, and drop them down. Deep inhale, deep exhale. All right, come back up. Now for Shavasana, I would recommend, if you have a couch, to put your legs up on it, or a chair. This would be my recommendation. If you don't, maybe whatever you do have to put underneath your knees. So support underneath your knees with a bolster, some blankets, your 2 blocks lengthened next to each other with a blanket on top of them. However, you can let your hamstrings be very soft and fluid. And as you come into Shavasana, let your body melt as you find your comfort zone, whatever the position is. What can you do to drop your body down? Feel the full spine, back of your head resting, shoulders resting, the pelvis resting. Melt in as best as you can. Deep, full breaths. Let gravity be a blanket. Let the earth be the bed. Let's slowly begin to bring our awareness broader, our breath broader. Melt your body one last time. Feel yourself surrender into the earth. And let's start to move any way that you want to move. You can move through your hips, move through your shoulders. Breathing deeply. Let's eventually come over onto your side and use your arms to help lift yourself upright. Take your time. As you come to a seated posture, notice once again, maybe sit cross-legged the weird way that you never do. Okay. Just see if you can drape your legs. Feel the support of the spine. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Let's offer our energy outward. Send your prayers, your love. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.